you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little black subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that black subscribe button. Really does help our audience grow, really does help our channel grow, really does help and mean more than you could possibly know. So go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Also, thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet 50 on any game, get $250 in free bets. Thank you again to Betfred. Thank you again to you. Now, here is the video that you came here for. I am back. Good to be back. Good to be back. I do want to switch gears, and I want to talk about something that we don't generally talk a ton about on this show. We do some, but it is college basketball recruiting. Like I said, we don't hit on a ton of different players, but when there's a marquee player or a marquee school getting a commitment, then we will hit on it on this show. And so I bring it up because on Monday, we did have one of the top high school players one of the top players in high school basketball. Obviously, if he's a high school player, he plays high school, but you get the point. One of the top players in high school basketball did, in fact, make his college decision. Kid is named Ian Jackson, 6'4" guard. He is one of the top players in the class of 2024. So he is just now a junior right now. And it was a little bit of a surprise commitment. So we knew kind of who was recruiting him, who he was serious about, who he wasn't. But on Sunday, he says, I'm announcing on Monday, MLK Day at the Hoop Hall Classic. And on Monday, he did, in fact, make his college decision. Final three schools were North Carolina, Kentucky, and Arkansas. Had long been seen as a Kentucky lean. There was some late North Carolina buzz. And on Monday, on national TV, he did, in fact, commit. And drumroll, please. Ian Jackson, number 2 player in the class of 2024. He is headed to the North Carolina Tar Heels. And so congratulations to, Roy Williams. Congratulations to Hubert Davis, who is truly, I believe, 1, coming off the Final Four, but 2, I believe really establishing himself as really a high-level recruiter, has a 5-star point guard committed for the class of 2023, Simeon Wiltshire, has a 5-star committed for the class of 2024 at point guard, Elliot Kudrow, and now adds Ian Jackson as a second marquee player in the class of 2024, has 3 top 30 players overall for 2024, and a 4th guy already committed. So 4 commits already for 2024. Obviously, that class is off to an incredible start. And so credit Hubert Davis. So let's break it down. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it from all angles, including, by the way, we're going to hit on at the end, the Kentucky angle of it all. But in terms of the kid, first of all, really talented player. Did get to see him at the Pangos All-American camp this past summer in Vegas. Really special talent, really special player, about 6'4", super athletic, and plays really hard on both ends of the court. I think that's what kind of stood out to me when I saw him. Every kid, they'll tell you behind the scenes, oh yeah, I'm a competitor. I'm a dog. I get after it. Not every kid does on both ends of the court. This kid does. Again, 6'4". I would argue he's probably, I think I said on Twitter, number 1 point guard in America. I'd argue he's probably more of a combo guard. I think that it's interesting to me that he referenced in his commitment that Hubert Davis kind of sees him as a Caleb Love type, because to me, that's kind of how I see him as well. Is a guy that can handle the ball if you need him to, but he is better kind of in that attack mode, that scoring mode, not really creating for others. I could name a million guys like it. I'm thinking about right now being a UConn guy, how Jordan Hawkins plays for the Huskies, kind of that kind of player. And so North Carolina gets a really good one and a really good player for whenever he enrolls, which again, we'll get to in a minute. Beyond that, I think there's really kind of 3 thoughts that stand out to me. One, first off, like I said, credit Hubert Davis, who is now really proving himself to be an elite recruiter. And like I said, this isn't his first rodeo. He was in college basketball with Roy Williams for years. So it's not as though he's new to the scene. This is Juwan Howard or Penny Hardaway coming from outside college basketball. But I will say, I give him a ton of credit for a couple reasons. One, he's hit the ground running. He has reestablished that Carolina brand on the recruiting trail. I know they recruited well under Roy Williams, but it feels like they are going after the biggest names, the best players in high school basketball since he got there. And they're having, as I said, a ton of success. You look at their 2024 recruiting class. I don't think even Hubert Davis really knows his scholarship numbers right now, but you're looking at an elite class already, the number 1 class in 2024. As I said, 3 players ranked inside the top 30, 4 overall recruits. And then in 2023, they obviously, as I said, have Simeon Wilcher, a 5-star point guard already committed for that class. And keep in mind, too, Gigi Jackson was supposed to be part of this class until kind of the summer that was, and I'm not going to get into all of that and relitigate all that, but Gigi Jackson was at one point committed for 2023. If he's in this class, that's probably a top 5 class. And then, oh, by the way, number 1 class in 2024. And I think what stands out about this recruitment specifically was it's a credit to Hubert Davis for making up ground, right? It's one thing if a kid grows up dreaming of playing for Carolina. It's one thing if, the kid has ties to the school. It's one thing if a kid is from Carolina. This kid was from New York and forever has been deemed a Kentucky lean, a Kentucky priority. I had even heard some stuff that maybe he silently committed at one point to Kentucky. I don't know that I believe that, but the point is that for as long as this kid has been recruited, it feels like he has been deemed a Kentucky lean. And so for Hubert Davis to make up ground, I think it's an impressive recruiting win. I know there's a lot of time before he actually signs on the dotted line, but this is a big one, and it's big, not just because he's a good player. Carolina's gotten great players before, but also because Hubert Davis was able to make up ground. The other thing that stands out to me about this recruitment, there was something really interesting that Ian Jackson said when he committed. And before we get to it, I kind of want to lay out just my thoughts about Carolina in general. Carolina, prior to Hubert Davis, they had just about everything that a school could offer. The history, the resources, the facilities, the 20,000-seat arena, alumni base, Jordan brand, all that good stuff. NIL now, I'm told that they fall behind nobody, especially in basketball and NIL. But the one thing that really I was thinking about this when when this kid committed was that they really didn't have like every high school player in America wants to go to a place that is going to develop them for the NBA and develop them quickly. Roy Williams, for the fact that he was a Hall of Famer, that wasn't something that was really on his resume. That's not a criticism of him. That's just a reality. Never played in the NBA, never coached in the NBA. And when you think about who North Carolina was competing with for top recruits, think about it like this. Kentucky, John Calipari, you can love him, you can hate him, coached in the NBA. He can tell kids, I know what it takes to get you there. I got a million guys there. Duke, Mike Krzyzewski, coach Team USA, Kobe, KD, Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, on and on and on. Coach K, coached the best of the best at the NBA level. May never have coached in the NBA, but knows what it takes to get there and have success there. Eric Musselman, coached in the NBA. Penny Hardaway at Memphis, played in the NBA. Juwan Howard, Michigan, played in the NBA. And so why I think that's important is because now North Carolina can sell, hey, our coaching staff, we're an NBA coaching staff now. I'm Hubert Davis. I played in the league forever. I played with Hall of Famers. I know what it takes to get there. I know what it takes to stay there. Thought it was really interesting. This is what Ian Jackson said in terms of his commitment on Monday. He said, talking about Hubert Davis, him having the experience of being in the NBA, him understanding what it looks like to get there, that was major for me. He's been there, he's done it, had the experience, and can give me some tools to guide me through the same process. He's a great guy, always smiling, looking to interact. And so the bottom line is this is now a new sales pitch on top of all of the other things that North Carolina has always been able to sell. Now, for the last 2 cycles, you have a former NBA player leading your program that kind of has been around college basketball, so he knows the college game, but has played in the NBA and can tell young kids, I know what it takes to get there. Think that's important, certainly played a role here. And finally, what I would just say about Ian Jackson in North Carolina specifically, I'm very curious to see when he gets to North Carolina. Now, in his kind of speech on TV, he said, I'll be there in 2024. I'll see you then. Go Tar Heels, blah, 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 blah. I would also say it's been rumored forever that he is a reclassification candidate. In other words, the potential is that he could graduate high school early this year and enroll at North Carolina for the fall of 2023. To me, I still believe that is probably the more likely case, and I'll tell you why. 2 reasons stand out. One, when Ian Jackson committed, he said, my goal is to be a one and done. My goal is to be a one and done. I want to get to the NBA as fast as possible. Well, he's 18 years old this year, meaning that he'll be 19 his freshman year. If he reclassifies, he'll be 19 next year, and he'll be eligible for the NBA draft next year. And so in general, there aren't a lot of guys, when you really think about it, who publicly have at least referenced the possibility of reclassifying that don't end up doing it. I think outside of maybe Tyrese Maxey, I can't really think of one guy that publicly it was talked about, it was discussed, and decided to return to high school basketball for an extra year. Just look at this year: Gigi Jackson, Marvin Bagley. You go out some of the Kentucky guys: Ashton Hagans, Johnny Juzang, Devin Askew. I can't think of everybody that's reclassified over the last couple of years, but in general, when guys talk about it, it usually gets done. Karl Anthony Towns is another one. So in my gut, even though he said, I plan on being there in 2024, I would still kind of expect him to be there in 2023. And it makes sense. I think North Carolina is probably going to lose most of their backcourt this year. RJ Davis may be back in 2023, 2024. I don't think Caleb Love will be back next year. There will be playing time to be had, and I almost think that it should be expected that he's going to reclassify, even if he doesn't officially. Finally, what I want to say from the other perspective, Kentucky, because I know Kentucky fans were a little bit down. This felt like the vintage moment that Cal always pulls off, John Calipari, of everyone's given up on him. Program's a mess. It's a disaster. Everything's going nowhere in a hurry. Then he beats Tennessee, and then the next day here, or 2 days after, he pulls off the crazy recruiting win. And I think a lot of Kentucky fans had talked themselves into it. I will say, over the last couple days, really Sunday and a Monday, after he announced that he would be announcing, it kind of became obvious that it was probably going to be Carolina. So I think most Kentucky fans braced themselves for it, but there's still a little bit of disappointment. From my perspective, what I would just say, if you're a Kentucky fan, I wouldn't be too upset. One, I still think that, it hurts, obviously, right? Like, it hurts because he was a Kentucky lean forever. Kind of mentally, you're saying this is going to be the building block of the 2024 class. But a couple things stand out. One, as I just said, if I had to bet money on such a thing, and I know you can't bet on it, I would bet that he plays college basketball next year. And if he does, guess what? You didn't have a spot for him anyway. And so that is probably why he decided to commit now, so that he can kind of mentally start preparing himself for the reclassification process, if that's what he wants to do. And if that's the case, there's really no playing time to be had at Kentucky. DJ Wagner's committed, Rob Dillingham's committed, et cetera, et cetera. I saw some stuff on social media about Kentucky fans, the negativity of the last few weeks playing a role. I'll be honest, I don't buy that at all. Now, I have no personal insight into this kid's recruitment, but what I can tell you is that while guys in the media, some like myself, and I include myself, sometimes play that up, while fans think about how their program is perceived, in general, high school players, they're pretty oblivious to it. I mean, just because I spend a lot of time on social media because it's my job, just because you spend time on social media during games because it's what you've done for years, most kids, they barely even watch the college that they're going to. They got games, they got practice, they're traveling, they're on a bus. They might catch highlights. I don't think most high school juniors are like watching minute by minute every single game your team plays and then going to social media to see what the fans are saying. Don't think it was a great look for a fan to bring Go to Texas John Calipari signed to the arena, but I don't think that's what ultimately cost them. And then finally from there, all I would just say really quick, Kentucky will figure it out. Like I'm already seeing what is the contingency plan. It's January of 2023. This kid, you weren't hoping to have him enroll until June of 2024. You got 18 months to figure it out. And what I would say is, if you're going to lose a priority recruit, now is actually the time to do it. With a year and a half to figure out a plan that's alternative to this. Is there another player that emerges this summer? Remember, I think this is the most, underrated reality of high school basketball recruiting, is that guys emerge in the summer all the time. Guys emerge out of nowhere, and I'm not saying that will happen, but there could be a guy in high school basketball right now that's just starting to develop that could be a top 10 prospect by this time next year. I'll give you an example. Stephon Castle committed to UConn in 2023. When he committed to UConn, he was ranked in like the 40s. Dan Hurley obviously disagreed because now he's ranked in the top 10 nationally. So is there a kid like that in 2024 that Kentucky can go get? I bet there probably is. And then there's the normal transfer portal stuff, the possibility of a reclassification candidate. I wouldn't worry too much if I was a Kentucky fan. If I was Kentucky, focus on the game against Georgia this week. You want to take care of business in that one. But again, all I really have, congrats to North Carolina, big time commit. Ian Jackson's a really good player. Carolina fans, you're going to enjoy him.